Okay, hello, Hendrik. Again,
Yes.
I will talk some information for speaker, and we start. Для всех, кто слушает нас в онлайне, у вас в чате что анализ days, что просто анализ days для онлайна, есть ссылочка, по ней задавать все вопросы, которые у вас возникнут. And we can start.
Okay, thank you very much. And it's really nice that I am able to give an online presentation and actually see the audience. So please say hi. Can you wave? Yes, wonderful. Hopefully next time I will be in Moscow, but this is the best we can do right now. Welcome for this talk on how BA can close the strategy execution gap, which is about business analysis, but it's actually about all roles involved in projects, functional analysts, product owners, product managers, testers, developers, and so on. You see on the slide also there is a QR code, so I will be having some interaction throughout the presentation because I like to be interactive even when it's online, but you will see the code again whenever it's needed. Okay, and actually it's needed right at the start here. A first question for me is, do you know who this person is? The person in the picture on the right, does anyone know who this is? So you can go to menti.com and vote if you know who this person is. I will perhaps show the QR code once more. A soccer player, a trainer, yes, that's already, it's indeed a soccer trainer. It's a tough one, I can imagine. Zidane, no, it's not Zidane, but I see some familiarity, yes, good try. Actually, this person is the football coach of the Belgian national soccer team. It's Roberto Martinez. And he's been quite successful with coaching our soccer team. We've had some quite good results. And one of the things that he said after a match that we won against World Championship tournament favorite Brazil a number of years ago was, I've never lost a game on the tactics board. Now you have to know Roberto Martinez is a very nice person. I've actually met him once, he's very friendly, he's not arrogant. Still, he makes this bold statement, I have never lost a game on the tactics board. My strategy will never cause a game to be lost. What he also said to the journalist was, I want to praise my players for their superb execution. And that's the key message for me. No matter how good your strategy is, if you as a team, as a person, as a company are not able to execute, to implement that strategy, you will never be successful. And it seems that it's quite a big problem for a lot of organizations. About half of the initiatives organizations take, research shows that about half of those initiatives fails to do a successful implementation. And so we have a good strategy, but somehow we are not able to implement it to a successful result. And actually the statistic is quite positive because they measure success as in our initiative has achieved about 50% of its goals. If we would raise the bar, if we would expect companies to achieve 1/3 of the goal, 70% of the goals, only 15% of strategic initiatives are successful. 85% would be failing. That's huge. And this is often a problem in execution. Somehow we seem to be unable to actually make it happen. And for example, another statistic is that if you are able to make sure that the right people are assigned to the right projects in the right time, you can increase your profitability by 77%. And so by changing the way you implement your strategy, by changing the approach, you actually create much more profit for your organization. So that's a big positive result from becoming better at strategy execution. Now I have a few more questions for you. Because if we want to be able to execute a strategy well, we need to make sure that we know and understand the strategy of our organization. We need to make sure that we understand the role that we will be playing in implementing that strategy. We need to make sure that we believe that the goals are actually achievable. Is this strategy possible, or is it just too ambitious? In general, do you believe, do you know and understand the strategy of your organization? Do you understand your role in implementing it? Do you believe the strategic goals that your organization puts forward can be achieved? Is your organization achieving the most of its strategic potential? If you answer yes to all those questions, then please answer yes in the next vote. If you have doubts on some of these questions, if you doubt that you really understand the strategy of know your role in it, or if you doubt that your company achieves its successes, then please vote no. I want to have a feeling of how good you think your company is at strategy execution. Let's see if we can get a few more votes. If you doubt, that means that you're not sure. That means you should vote no. This is a fairly good result. A little over half of the people in the audience, roughly half, it changes a little bit, say their organization is good at strategy execution. But again, as we saw in the first statistic, 50% of you says, no, we're not good at it. There are some problems, there is potential to improve. And that's what this talk is about. This talk is about how can we, in a BA-related role, improve strategy execution. And I use an approach in 3 steps to guide people through it. The first step is strategy. We have to know what the strategy is. The second step is execution. We have to translate that into some solution without going into too much detail too soon. And the third step is lean. We have to make sure that we are aware that we don't have a crystal ball. Things can go wrong, things will go wrong, and we have to make course corrections. And I will walk you through these 3 parts of strategy execution in the next few moments. So the first step, pin down goals. A lot of organizations have rather vague goals. For example, we need to decrease costs or increase productivity, or we need to make sure that we have a digitally transformed organization, things like that. These are true, but these are too vague. And I will give you an example, which is customer experience. So many companies today, and for the past 10, 15, 20 years, have been working with a strategic goal, improving the customer experience. Now I have again a question for you. This slogan, you press the button, we do the rest. What company do you think has come up with this slogan? Any suggestions? Could be Apple. It's an older company, so it's not Apple or YouTube. It's not Intel either. Those are good tries, but it's an older company, older than Microsoft, older than Intel or Google. I see that all of your companies that you propose are in the digital age, which of course makes sense. Actually, the company that this is about is Kodak. In 1888, Kodak was improving the customer experience by stating, you press the button, we do the rest. And so now companies ask me, help us become better. Our strategy is improve the customer experience. Now, I'm not saying that that's a wrong goal. It's a wrong ambition. It's a good ambition to improve the customer experience, but it's not making you any different than competitors. It's not making you any different than all the companies for the past 150 years, like Kodak in 1888. What Kodak said was, we want to make it so easy for people to use a camera that it's as easy as using a pencil. And what can we do to make sure that the strategic objectives that we get from our sponsors, from our stakeholders, from our project sponsors, that they are clear enough to give us enough guidance. So a question that we can ask of every strategy, and we will ask of Codex strategy in a minute, is the strategy sniff test. Can I make the opposite choice without looking stupid? So if we take the strategy of improve the customer experience, the opposite would be make the customer experience worse. Now you can say, I think that that sounds stupid. Usually it's not a good idea to make the customer experience worse if you want to become more successful as a company. And so if you apply the strategy sniff test to your organization's strategy and the inverse is stupid, then it's not a good strategy in the sense that it does not give you enough guidance. If we apply it to Codex strategy was we want to make a camera that with only one push on one single button, you get decent pictures. That's a clear strategy. Another strategy could be we want to make a camera that in any circumstances, whether it's a dark or light, whether it's a fast or a slow moving object, you will get a good picture. And it will be a bit more complicated to operate the camera, but you will get a good result each time. That would have been a different strategy. And so if we see here that in the way Kodak formulated its strategy, we had a clear choice of direction. Where do we want to go? What is our approach? If you fail the strategy sniff test, it usually means that that clear guidance is lacking. And there, as a business analyst, we have to make sure that we clarify that before going into the details of the project. If we don't know where we are going, then we can never be successful. So the first part of strategy execution is making sure that we are clear about what is this strategic direction that we are going to follow. And is it more specific than improve the customer experience or transform digitally? An example is from a customer that I've worked for is this one. It was a company that created, that offered services for safety at work so that there were few work accidents. And initially their strategy was, we want to grow our revenue from extra legal services. Now this is already a little bit better than simply we want to grow our revenue. So it gives some direction. So it doesn't completely fail the strategy sniff test. But through a number of workshops, we were able to refine it and make it much more clear. And we ended up with this. By 2017, we made it smart. We put a date on it. We will double our revenue from extra legal services. We put a number on it by better exploiting existing products and services at our current customer base. So it's a clear choice. It gives very clear direction for the projects without going into the details. Are we going to do more in-person sales? Are we going to do more online sales and marketing? We don't say. That's up to the people on the ground floor. That's up to the people in the projects to decide. But we do give a clear strategic direction. And so that's the first part. By applying the strategy sniff test on your initial strategic ambitions, and by fine-tuning the ambition so that it's giving clear guidelines and choices, we get a clear view on where are we heading? Where do we want to go? What is the framework around our projects so that we can make choices in the implementation? The second step then is execution, which I call expose enablers. We want to find out what are the key elements of a solution without diving into the first solution that comes to mind. Because a lot of times as a BA, we notice that people come to us with a very ambitious high-level goal, improve the customer experience, and they already know the detailed solution. And then it's up to us to find out, okay, is that solution the right one? Are there alternatives that may be better? And see where we get. I will again give you an example, but first I want to do another small test with you. Can you give me an estimation of how many candies are in this bowl? So I will move to the next question. How many candies do you think are in this bowl? 10,000, that's quite a lot. More than 100, that's a safe estimation. 3,000. Let's see what else is coming. 600, 4,000, a couple, that's always right. Very creative. Okay, so we see this ranging, these estimations that you make, we see this ranging from anywhere around a few hundred to up to 10,000. That's an enormous range. That's an enormous difference. It almost sounds like the typical project cost estimation. Now, why do I give this example? I give this example because people are really, really bad at making estimations of absolute numbers. We are very bad at judging what an actual distance, an actual price, an actual potential benefit is. And it's simple. The reason is biologically, if a long time ago, we encountered a tiger and we had to decide whether to run or climb a tree, we didn't have time to calculate that tiger's speed and the distance and so on. We just had to make a quick judgment call. So people's brains are not good at making absolute estimations or calculations, but we are good at making relative estimations, at comparing different options. So if we have multiple solution options for our project, for implementing our strategy, that means that we can compare which one will be more expensive, which one will be quicker to implement, which one will reach a larger number of people more quickly, which one will have better benefits. And by comparing solutions, it becomes much easier to choose the right one, to choose the best one, or to choose the best combination of partial solutions. So that's an important reason why we need different options and not just go with the first solution that comes to mind. By comparing them, we can make a better choice. To do so, I use the benefits map. So take, for example, a project where in the postal office, people say we want to improve the customer experience, and we're going to do that by allowing people to register online when they want to come for their packages, for example, so that they don't have to wait in line, because no one likes to stand waiting in line for a long time, like you see in the picture. Okay, so as often happens in the project, we start from a very high level goal, improve the customer experience. And we already know the solution, an online reservation system. And now it's up to us as a BA to challenge this and to find out, okay, what are the details in between? Why would an online reservation system help us improve the customer experience? And so the first thing we do is we apply the strategy sniff test. And obviously this fails because making the customer experience worse sounds stupid. So while working with our stakeholders, we discover there is a more specific goal, which is reduce the waiting time. This gives us quite some direction. And this is again also a bit of a risk, because on the one hand, it's good that we get this direction. On the other hand, we risk already moving towards a specific solution. I'll give you an example of the Houston airport, which a number of years ago had a problem that people, when they did a survey, people informed them that they really hated the experience of waiting for their luggage after landing with the airplane. It took too much time. So they said, okay, let's improve those processes of luggage handling. We're going to put more people on it. We're going to improve the process and so on. And they were able to reduce the time between landing and getting the luggage by 50%. It's a huge improvement. So they were really happy. And they did a new survey asking what is the worst part of your airport experience? And the answer was, again, waiting for my luggage. And so even by reducing the waiting time, they were unable to successfully implement their strategy. They were not making their customers happy. And then someone had a bright idea and he said, what if we don't reduce the waiting time? What if we make the time between landing and arriving at luggage claim? What if we make that time longer? And they actually made the distance between the airplane and baggage claim longer. So people had to walk for a longer time before arriving at baggage claim, before collecting their baggage. The problem was gone. Simply because when people are walking, it doesn't feel like they are waiting. And so by asking the question, let's reduce the waiting time, they already hinted at a certain type of solution that apparently was not the best solution. So they changed things around. They said we're going to improve the waiting experience, And one way to do so is by ensuring a short waiting time. And this is actually key, I think, in the work of a BA. It's trying to make the connection between the initial solution that is proposed on the right side, the ultimate, often too high level goal on the left side, and find out what's in between. And the ensure a short waiting time is something that potentially enables your organization to achieve its strategy of improving the customer experience. That's what I call an enabler. And by doing this work with your stakeholders, you can come up with different enablers, like making sure the waiting time is correct and predictable. You know how long you will have to wait, like in theme parks. And you also know that people are not able to skip ahead of you. So, you know, I'm 5th in line and I will always be 5th in line and then 4th and then 3rd, and no one can skip ahead of me. That's also something that potentially enables you to achieve your strategic goals. A third thing could be ensure a comfortable and pleasurable waiting time. Make sure it's comfortable to wait. And if you know these things, then you can start thinking about solution options instead of the original solution, which may or may not be a good one. You can think of alternatives and compare them so that you know which is the best one to choose, the quickest, the cheapest, the one that will have most results. For example, the old school machine where you can pull out a small number and you know, okay, this is where I am in line. I know so many people are ahead of me. I know no one can skip ahead. It's not reducing the waiting time, but I know what I'm going to experience. And that might be enough. In Thailand, they came up with an even more interesting solution. People put out their shoes in a line. They know when it's their turn, and they can comfortably wait while sitting on a chair. There's no IT involved in this solution, because ultimately, IT is very powerful, but also very costly. So our job is to make sure that we choose where we are going to apply IT and where alternatives may be better. So that is the part of enablers, finding out what are the critical success factors to help our achievement, to help our execution, to help the implementation of our strategic goals, to help us achieve those goals, without diving into one single solution early on in the project. When we've done this exercise and when we have selected a solution, we are obviously going to implement it. In doing so, we must be aware that we are not sure that we have chosen the right solution, that we are going to achieve the strategic goals. We may believe so because we've done some analysis and research, but we are never 100% sure, unless someone has done exactly the same thing before us in exactly the same situation, which usually is not the case. So the question that comes to mind here is, does the actual return on investment match the business case calculation? We make a business case at the start of a project. We have a strategic guidance. We have a promise of the benefits that we are trying to achieve. Are we actually getting the return that we think we should be getting? Many companies don't know. And maybe think about your company. Are you actually measuring this? Are you actually measuring after a project, when it's launched, that the project is bringing the return on investment that you were hoping for? If so, great. Then you are one of the few companies that does that. Most companies just move on to the next project because there are so many projects waiting in line. Where does this dynamic come from? It's actually part of how we run projects, I think. You probably know the golden triangle. And the statement in project management is that if you manage time, scope, and budget of your project well, then you will deliver a quality result. So let's try and apply this on our improvement of the waiting line in the postal office. We have done our analysis work. We have clarified the strategy. We have found the enablers, the key success factors. We have a number of options listed here, the online reservation system, the system to pull a number, and the solution that Thailand has come up with. We do select now our scope. We decide we go for the Thailand solution, for example. We turn that scope into an implementation plan. We put a time on it, we put a budget on it, and then we start the project. And we implement the selected solution. At this point in time, something really dangerous has just happened. I'm giving you a few moments to think about what dangerous thing could have just happened. So we did our strategic work. We selected our scope. We created an implementation plan, and we kicked off the project. And what often happens is that people then turn from strategic mode into implementation mode, which is fine, but they lose track of the goals. They have now focused on delivering the output, the scope that was selected. And they are not focused anymore at the question, is this output bringing us the expected return on investment? And there, the job for people in a BA-related role, or actually for any people in a project, is to make sure that we keep track of that goal. Are we getting closer to our goal? So actually, quality is not a result. Quality is one of the parameters that we need to work with. And if we manage time, scope, budget, and quality well, we should be able to deliver value to the organization. We should be able to deliver not a solution, because that solution is not that important. We should be able to deliver value through that solution. In order to do so, we need to revise or revisit the benefits map. We need to be aware that whatever solution we choose, we are never 100% sure that that solution is going to bring us closer to an improvement of the customer experience. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't. All the lines on this diagram are actually uncertainties that we should potentially test. We think that our solutions will realize the enablers. They will be good implementations of the enablers. And we think that the enablers will help us achieve the goals, but we are not sure. So we need to identify the biggest uncertainties on our benefits map. Are we sure that a row of chairs will be perceived as comfortable by the customers? If you know, great. If you don't know, perhaps you need to do a test before implementing it at all postal offices throughout the entire nation. Are you sure that people feel that their waiting order is guaranteed if they pull this number out of the machine? If you know it for sure, great. If you're not sure, then maybe you need to do a test first before rolling the system out throughout the entire country. And that is something that in a lot of projects is not done. Once we get into project mode, we implement a solution completely, we roll it out, and then we hopefully discover that it works well and that it helps us achieve the benefits that we promised, if we even measure those. The suggestion here is that we need to do these tests along the way throughout the project. We need to combine in order to get data, in order to make sure that we prove for ourselves that this is going to work. Don't trust your gut, but get data, get actual measurements, tests, by combining the implementation and the validation plan. By first doing a small test, for example, putting chairs up in a number of offices, postal offices, and checking the feedback. Do customers feel that it is improving their experience? If the answer is yes, you can move on. If the answer is no, you may decide to stop or change directions. Find out if there is a better solution, a better option in this case. And then you take it step by step. But along the way, the entire time, you are trying to measure, is this bringing us closer to our goal? Is this, in the example, giving us a better customer experience, yes or no? So at each step in time, you make a conscious decision, you measure whether you are achieving the results, and you either stop or you change directions or you continue. And that is the entire lean strategy execution approach, illustrated by a simple example. So to summarize, what does this mean? It means that you have to make sure that you pin down clear goals and that your strategy shows a choice, that it gives you enough guidance without jumping into a specific solution. When you are exposing the enablers, again, the same thing, find out what the true needs are. Why is this solution really going to work? And what are potential alternatives or options? And then be aware that you don't know for sure it's going to work. So you have to make sure that you have a process of fast learning integrated within your project. Bring data through not just performing your implementation plan, but by also continuously checking, are we achieving the benefits promised by the business case? And that's my final slide. This means that the role of the BA is changing somewhat. It means that as a BA, you become a value manager. You have to be very aware of all the time, what is the value we're trying to achieve? What are the goals we're trying to achieve? And are we getting closer to them? In execution, you have to be an opportunity manager. You have to find out what possible interesting alternative options are for the solution, like the Thailand solution, and investigate, try them out. And finally, you have to make sure that you manage all the assumptions. You are not sure that the chosen solution is the best one. So try to find out along the way and not all the way at the end or even after the project is finished. I hope this was inspiring and helpful for you, and I'm looking forward to any questions you may have. Thank you very much.
Hein, thank you for your document. Who have a question? Any question, maybe? Okay, in online, no question too. Maybe who? Okay. Oh, okay.
Philippe, hi, thanks for a great speech. Do you have your personal examples of building process like line with the flip-flops or chairs or something like this?
Well, the example
your personal solution when you were focused on the goal, not on the solution by itself.
A personal example, I think, would be presentations and workshops. So I give quite a bit of presentations, I give quite a bit of workshops, and it has been a process of continuous improvement. So it starts out with small conversations with people where you try to make a point. For example, in this presentation, a key point is you need to do continuous value creation tests in every project, which is often not done. And by simply pitching the idea to people, you get feedback. Do people believe it? Do people understand it? Do people like the idea? What are their concerns? And then you move it into a small presentation, for example, internally in an organization when you discuss a project, and it grows until something, now it's ended up in a 2-day workshop. So that's a personal example of how it evolved by doing continuous testing. Is this idea making sense? Do people like it? Can people apply it? And so on. So that would be a personal example.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question.
Maybe who have any question? Okay, I mean, that's all. Philip, thank you very much for your document. Finish.
Thank you very much and enjoy the conference.
No, in online, no question too. I check in online, no question. Okay.
Hi, Philip. Thank you for a great presentation. I had maybe a question connected to your presentation about some frameworks of making hypotheses, like maybe impact mapping or something like that. What do you prefer to use?
Impact mapping is a good example. So there are different variations of benefits maps. Impact mapping is one, which explicitly states which actors you need in order to achieve your strategy. If you want to go into more details, the benefits dependency network is an interesting one, where there's also a clear place for IT solutions. So when it's about mapping out the link between the solution and the objectives, those are good examples. And then the identifying the assumptions is always the same. It's usually checking the lines and asking yourself, are we sure about this? So the key approach that I take there is, if you have the benefits map, are you sure about the connections on the benefits map? That's one thing that I often use to identify assumptions. A second approach is, if you write a business case, it usually focuses a lot on the finances, both on the cost side and the benefit side. And also there you can ask yourself, how sure are we about this number? How sure are we that this cost is this big or this small? Or this benefit is this big or this small? And what if we are wrong? How big is the impact of being wrong for ultimately for the entire business case? And by identifying both the uncertainty and the potential impact if you are wrong of all the numbers, you can identify which numbers will have the biggest impact on success or failure of your project. And those are the numbers that you will want to check through some kind of validation.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Any question now? Okay, thank you, Philip, for this download. We are done. Thank you.
Enjoy the day.
Bye. Goodbye.